I'm not saying whoop them, but go on and snatch them up real hard.
Correct and correct, because I'm not going to jail. And if you end up going, if your end result was jail, that means you didn't listen to me. You didn't do what I said to do in the way that I said. You're currently parenting your children, but as a result of the traumas that you have experienced as being a child. So your parent, how your parent or guardian, whomever it was who played a part of parenting you, that trauma as a result of that. So that helicopter parenting, it sounds all good and great, but when you get to the basis of what caused that, what that is an emotional reaction to.
Hello, everybody. I am Coach Kiana.
And I am therapist Danielle.
And we are the Real on Parenting. Danielle, nice to see you.
Oh, nice to see you too. Nice seeing you as well.
Listen, we have to give our audience a heads up because we're new to them, right? So You guys will see some very random moments of inside jokes and laughter. You will see some very forgetful moments of what the heck did I just say? What was I supposed to say? Go with it, because as part of the Real on Parenting, it's the real in menopause, it's the real in forgetfulness.
Yes, all of that.
We have a lot. So Danielle, introduce yourself real quick.
My name is Danielle Lipkin. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I have been licensed for over 10 years. Actually, it's more than 15 to be honest. And I also have experience and a background with mediation and more specifically working with those parents who just don't get along, whether that's in an intimate relationship amongst each others or separated and attempting to co-parent and working with the little kiddos. So that's my background in regards to what I do for my 9 to 5, but also what I'm licensed in and what my passion is as well.
All right, very good. And I'm Kiana Shaw. By trade, I am a training and development specialist, certified self-mastery coach, and a certified breakthrough parenting instructor. I'm also a speaker, author, and a trainer. And I am just really excited to be here. There's been so much that Danielle and I have thought about and talked about over the past few years. Our conversations have come to life, and we've decided we would make them a podcast. So you want to talk about like our purpose, our mission, just so people know?
Yes. Within our many conversations that Kiana and I have had, the common focus, what it came down to, is parenting these kids, these teenagers, these adult kids who not acting like adults, more the kid-like, and really have more detailed conversation in regards to the support, the resources, and the information, the lacking of it for our African American, for our brown, Black, whatever you reference yourself as, parents. And a lot of parents are in this role, but not necessarily mom and dad. They can be caregivers, they can be relatives, they can be family of a friend of the family. I'm saying it backwards. So the purpose of this podcast is to provide the resources, to provide the information, and also to provide the education in a gentle but realistic way to help parents learn how to parent from a better place. It doesn't mean you're going to be a perfect parent, but be work on you in a way that allows you to parent in a different way that is healthy for your children and for yourself.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to throw this in there. We are as real as it gets, right? 2 girls from Compton who just really want to be amazing moms, right? Amazing wives. But I'm single. And my advice is legal-ish, right? Like every now and then I might be like, listen, I'm not saying whoop them, but go on and snatch them up real hard. Like, so Danielle comes from the perspective of like, there's actual licenses attached to her name. So there's some things she will not say, some things she will not support. Okay.
Correct and correct. Because I'm not going to jail. And if you end up going, if your end result was jail, that means you didn't listen to me. You didn't do what I said to do in the way that I said. You took your.
And I'm gonna be honest. There have been times where I listened to her just enough to not go to jail. Right? Like that's. I'm being honest. If there is anybody who needs a union, it's me. Right? It is what it is. So that's what you're getting when you're coming in here today. We are talking about a pretty serious topic, right? Because this came up as we've been talking to people who know us, and we're like, hey, what would you want to know about? And you are welcome to send us an email to therealonparenting@gmail.com. If there are topics that you want us to address, we are happy to do so. therealonparenting@gmail.com. Today, though, we're talking about trauma parenting. Am I saying it right? Like parenting from trauma is probably
exactly. So trauma parenting, but parenting as a result, currently parenting your children, but as a result of the traumas that you have experienced as being a child. So your parent, how your parent or guardian, whomever it was who played a part of parenting you, that trauma as a result of that.
Now, there's a lot of ways that people have trauma-based parenting, right? Like it doesn't come in a cookie cutter form. Sometimes it shows up in the form of neglect. Sometimes it shows up in spankings or beatings, right? Because I do believe that there's a difference. Sometimes it shows up though in the form of what? Like what are some other ways?
In the form of leniency. In the form of
that hands-off parenting. Okay.
No boundaries, no discipline. And we can talk about that a little bit more because there's a difference between discipline and punishment.
We definitely have to touch on that.
And it can be something that can present, or a form of it is not letting your kid do anything. So that helicopter parenting, it sounds all good and great, but when you get to the basis of what caused that, what that is an emotional reaction to, that is not healthy. Needless to say, it's not healthy. And we'll speak more in depth of that. So there's various ways of how a parent can parent their child as a response to their own individual trauma.
Now,
childhood
I can
trauma,
admit,
specify that childhood trauma.
Yes, and I can admit that I am definitely, I am working on not being a trauma parent, right? Like I'm trying, like, because I dealt with sexual abuse, because I dealt with a lot of manipulation, like I'm very watchful of my daughter and who she's around. And I get that some people are like, you're too over the top. But I also feel like, well, I also need to make sure that I am, in fact, watching out. Because although everyone is not looking to abuse children, everyone's not refraining from it. So I have to be proactive.
Yes,
right?
That's true. Yes, so, that's very true.
So what? Look, I'm getting my therapy session in front of all these people.
It's all right.
Welcome to our phone calls. So what do I do when I feel that I am right and I am just protecting my child and everyone else is going, it's too much?
So there are a couple of things, and you are correct in the sense that everyone in the world is not an abuser. We can agree with that. However, those who need to speak up when they see something that's not okay, that is very rare. And that's scary. That is scary. We're supposed to protect our children, even if we know them or not. We're supposed to assume they're okay, and we play our part, as an adult, to do or say whatever needs to be done in regards to ensuring that they are safe. With that, so unfortunately, there are many people who have experienced some form of abuse as a child. And with that, you carry parts of that, and it comes out in various ways. Being mindful, being aware is okay. And it is needed. That's the part of actually having those boundaries. What you need to ask yourself is, am I being hyper aware? An example of that is, okay, my daughter is, she's 5. Let's just give different age range because the parenting perspective and response for it should be different. So my daughter is 5 years old and she's wanting to go spend the night. One of her friends from school is having a slumber night. Mm-hmm. You can spend the night. You met with the friend's mom before. You got chit-chatted because you guys attended different school events, but you've never seen her household. Even if you have gone to her house, you don't really know who's in her house. Is there other children? Is there other adults? Who's around? Right. There's some people who may feel, oh, that's okay because I've met this mom before. I know who she is because we've had different activities and engagements. So sure, I'll let my daughter go. And she goes.
Right. And everything is fine.
It can be fine. However, that level of discernment related to, is my child able to speak up for themselves?
Right.
Does my child have that temperament to say, this doesn't feel right? Does my child, do I really know this person to feel comfortable enough to take heed to what my child needs and take on responsibility to make sure my child stays safe and is safe? And let's jump to 10. 10 may be slightly different. And I would say this, and all of this is on a personal level. Because I would say me personally, and this is my views and perspectives is slightly different in regards to certain things, but my daughter has not spent the night at anyone's house. Mm-hmm. And maybe by way of the line of work that I work in, and I hear the various stories, but the people, the events of the people that my daughter has brought to my cousin, she has, where can I spend the night over to the such house? And I'm like, who is that? Have I met this person? Have I met this person's parents more than a handful of times? And if the answer is no, to her, if the answer is no, then my response is no.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know them. And if it's 2 handful of times, then I think about it, but it's still gonna be no.
Right. Now listen, so I've had to learn the difference between teaching my daughter caution versus teaching her fear, right?
Sure.
Because where I thought I was teaching caution when she was younger, I was teaching fear, right? And I can see it showing up now, right? Yes. But at the same time, and at the same time, there are a lot of parents, there's, kids that she goes to school with. Some of them never ask questions. And I'm like, I can't send you over there and they don't, I want to know who's over there. That's a good question. One parent said that about us. She was just like, I don't know who be over there. And I'm really particular about that. When my daughter's friends are here, my brother is not here. If I'm dating, you know what I'm saying? Kayla's only outside of her dad, she's only seen me date one person. But when her friends were coming, he was not coming, right? And a lot of times, because Kayla is gone with her dad on the weekends, like he doesn't come during the week. It's like, she'll see you every now and then, but we don't need to interact like that when she's home. And so because I feel like that at my own house with my own daughter, I'm very cautious of who I bring around other people's kids. Yes. But I also ask for IDs. I give my ID. If you don't want to show me your ID and let me know that you have a valid driver's license and insurance, she can't go. I don't care that it's a Chuck E. Cheese.
For people's insurances.
Well, because how do I know you have valid insurance? Right, like here's the thing, because I don't know you well, I gotta do my due diligence. If you haven't asked for my ID and then I don't bring your baby back, you gonna tell the police she went with Kayla mama, right? Like, that is not an accurate description.
I hear you, you silly. I do hear you, but I think that in itself really comes down to, like I mentioned, like that personal decision. So in instances for you, it may be yes. However, this information needs to be presented to me to make that yes stay a yes.
Right.
I would say for me, on the other hand, whenever it is a yes, it's never spend the night, it's a day visit. However, I have engaged with that person in such a way that I already know that information. So I don't have to ask for it or for it to be presented to me. I already have the address, already have the numbers, already have the family members. That's just how I work in general, outside of being a therapist. That is just how I roll. I know the sibling's name, I know the dog's name, I know the family makeup, okay? I know the family tree before I get to, okay, yes, you can go on a day outing or whatever.
Now I will say, as a teenager, there were times when it was somebody's big cousin and not really their mama.
Oh.
So maybe that's part of my trauma.
Right. That was never my case, but I would say that really goes back to, I would say, as a parent, doing your due diligence and not just assuming that your child is going to provide you with all the right information that you are asking, because your child is still to some degree is going to say what they want to say to make sure they can go. Right. So as a parent, it's not that you're going to be text messaging, her friends' parents. However, there should have been some interaction with these parents.
So that
even if it is a text message, which by default, that means you have their number. You can confirm that such and such is going or was invited. You can confirm that because you are texting by way of also calling to make sure, you know what I mean?
Yes, I'm definitely a caller. I'm not a texter when it comes to my kid. Like, that's just precious cargo. I did some voices.
It is, right. So I would say both, but I think that when it comes to, and I'm speaking this from, whenever I speak, I'm speaking from professional and personal, but I also remember I'm different. I operate different. So when I text my friend's mom, I know it's her because we've talked on the phone several times. But whenever it comes down to an outing, an event, it's a conversation. It's not like, we doing this and do. No. I'm about to call you. That's what that text is. And then I give the call and get the information that's needed.
Absolutely. Now, I don't want to stay on this topic because I feel like there's more to trauma parenting, right?
Sure.
So I know that there's like managing emotions, right? Managing strong emotions, and having that difficulty in doing so, because sometimes we grew up in, households where anger or sadness are the only emotions that were really expressed, right? So what does a parent do, right? Because mine is legal-ish. So let's talk to you. What does a parent do when they're having difficulty with that?
Well, one thing that all parents should do, no matter how old their children are, is actually validate their children's feelings. I would say from growing up, it like you mentioned, I saw anger, I saw some sadness. I can count on one hand, and that's not good, but I can count on one hand sadness. Anger, unfortunately, is the norm, unfortunately. Right. So, and all that's in between, not that it didn't exist, but I didn't see it. I knew that it was there, but I never saw it within my household. So as a parent, you do need to validate your child's feelings. Feelings are not right or wrong, because you cannot tell your child what they're feeling. That's their body.
Now, let's talk about that, because I think a lot of parents, particularly those of us in the African American community, we have this tendency to act like our kids don't have feelings. Like, they're not allowed to express them. They're not allowed, they're not validated in any kind of way.
Right.
So, and when that is going on, how do we break that I don't want to call it a generational curse, but
no, it really is invalidating, and is you're telling your child what you're feeling in your body. You're not feeling
it's wrong or doesn't exist.
It's wrong. Exactly. Both.
Right. If you give your child a spanking, They supposed to be mad, right? Like, who's not mad when they get hit?
Right.
Who's not mad?
Don't cry. Like, girl, you just tore my butt up and I'm not supposed to cry. Like, I don't understand. And that's also why a lot of kids are very conflicted on when they're experiencing feelings that's not happy or sad or mad.
Right.
And sad is somewhat on the fence. So as a parent, you saying, I can see you're upset. You saying, I see you're sad. You saying, with what happened, it's okay to feel whatever that feeling is that kid or your child is experiencing.
So that empathizing?
That's validation. You are specifically stating, I see that you are experiencing this feeling and it's okay for you to feel that feeling.
Got it.
Period. Because there's more. So after that period, depending on what your child has done or has not done as a way of attempting to regulate, to deal with that feeling, to manage that feeling, that is what that next sentence would address. So I'm going to say this. I grew up getting my butt whooped, okay? I grew up with my mama giving me the look, okay? So when I say
me too. Okay, sorry.
Right. So when I say certain things, I don't want anybody to get it confused or assume that I was parented in a, and I was about to say non-traditional. Cut that. No. And in the way that a lot of African American children, now adults, were parented. So right. When I say this next, I know some people will be like, what? Yes, I said what I said, and I meant what I said. So let's say, prime example, my daughter was very upset after having, I call it one of those real come to Jesus conversations in regards to certain goals that she had for herself. Yes, we have a conversation about goals. Anyways.
Absolutely.
And she was more so upset, kind of like flustered with herself. So my daughter has a lot of big emotions. It can be good big emotions, bad big emotions. Any feeling is big, okay? And it's a whole lot. But there's that part of it like, honey, I understand you're frustrated. You're probably upset with yourself. And that's okay to feel that way because that was a whole lot to digest. Mm-hmm. However, and she already knows a comma, you're not yelling at nobody.
Oh.
So if you need a moment, let me back it up. I see that you need a moment because at the end of the day, they're still kids. They can be 16, 17, they're still kids. I see based off your behaviors that you need some time and I'm going to give you that time.
Right.
And I walked away, but we've been doing this for so long. She understands the process, but as a parent that this is something new and totally different, it takes a lot of practice. I don't want anyone to assume that, I'm going to do what therapist Danielle said or what Coach Kiana had mentioned and boom, it worked. Girl, no.
It takes time.
Boy, no. How long have you been parenting in the current way that you have now?
Right.
A long time. So it's not going to default pop up while you're parenting. No, it is something that you as an adult have to actively be aware of and that you're working on.
Absolutely.
So acknowledge, validate, and then the next sentence is really depending upon what your child is showing you. Do they need a break? Do they need a hug? Do they need you to be quiet and get out their face? That's what giving space is. I was like, let me get out my child's face because I know if she says something else to me in that tone, we're going to have a problem. So we both need space. Okay?
Now, a lot of people will go, well, that's letting your child run the house. It's not. It's understanding that they are a human being. And I ask my daughter, sometimes I can see it in her face. Do you need a hug? Do you need to cry? Right? Because if she needs to cry, I got to give her that space. Sometimes she's like, no, I don't want to cry, but I see those tears and I go, okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Right. And then sometimes I just grab her and she falls into my arms and she's just like, because she's upset. But we got to give her that space. I think that sometimes we forget that kids are human beings and the same way our spouses right? The same way we expect
Yes.
our spouses to hear us
Right.
out, our kids need to be heard out because
Right.
they are people.
Right. And the phrase of kids need to be seen nor heard, that's what continues the abuse. Just to
Yes,
put it out, that's the hard truth. That's that ouch. Yes, I'm coming for the pearls. That is what supports the continued abuse.
absolutely. And we have to break that cycle. We have to be willing to understand that how we were parented, while it may have yielded some great results, it still yielded some trauma. It still yielded some level of discomfort. Some of us are still looking for apologies, right? That we're never
Oh,
going to
say
get.
that again. Yes.
We're still
Yes.
looking for apologies from people who
Yes.
said, I did what I knew to do. That don't mean I don't need an apology. I did what was best at the time. That
At
does
the
not
time.
mean I don't
Yes.
need an apology.
Right. Right.
It happens.
Right.
Like we have to get used to, we have to get okay with telling our kids, you know what? I'm sorry. I told Kayla yesterday, there was something that she did, and I was like, no, it was the spray bottle, right? She's cleaning up. So this is like maybe 2 months ago. And I was like fussing about her using the spray bottle. And I'm like, you putting too much. Like, why would you use that much? And she was like, it just kept going. And I'm like, so I'm cleaning the bathroom yesterday, and the doggone spray bottle. I'm like, why is this spraying so much?
I know what you're talking
I went
about.
right back to that conversation, and I said, "Mommy owes you an apology because
Yes.
you told me that that's what happened, and I was fussing about it." And
Right.
here we are revisiting this, and so I want to say I apologize. She was just
Yes.
like, whatever, lady. Like, right? She's just like, I am past that moment now, right? But at the same time,
Right.
I felt bad. I'm like, I need to make sure that I apologize to my child because
Yes.
she deserves that.
Yes.
She
Yes.
deserves it.
Right. And you're so right. As adult, well, let me say this, just because we are an adult does not make us right.
Oop.
We all are
Oop,
human.
oop, oop, oop. Jump in the way back machine. Go back about 10 seconds. Say that again.
Just because we are an adult does not default mean that we are always right. Because we're not. We're human. We're human. And when you present yourself in that way to your child or children, it creates a lot of issues in the future when it comes to relationships, when it comes to work relationships, when it comes to friendships, when it comes to anybody in an authoritarian figure or place of your child. So we are wrong at times because we are human. Your child needs to hear you say, my bad, I was wrong. Your child needs to hear you say, like you said, Kiana, even though that was a week ago, mommy's sorry because you were telling me the truth. And in that moment, I really wasn't believing you, but then it happened to me. I apologize. They need to hear that. And that's another discussion down the road, but they need to hear and understand that just because it is an adult in any capacity does not default mean that they're right all the time.
Absolutely. And when we consider, a spouse that won't be wrong, that like no matter how wrong they are, they won't be wrong, right? When we consider a spouse that comes at us and they're yelling and we like, bring it down 3 notches, right? Like we sometimes we got to remember our children feel that exact same way. They want us to bring it down some. They want us to admit that we're wrong. That's just relationship with a person. And I think sometimes we just look at our children as accessories and they're not. They're whole people.
They're just the kids. They'll be all right. No. They won't be all right. They're going to be needing therapy. They probably not, and no disrespect. And that, let me say this: when I always say no disrespect, that's my disclaimer. That
disrespect is
that's a hard. Know that I've said something that's really a hard truth. Things that we're talking about and things that we are stating and going in depth. These are hard truths, and these are truths that are challenging and going against how you were raised, your upbringing, what your mama, your grandmama, your grandfather, your daddy, your uncle, your brother said to you is going against all of that. And within the things that we're speaking of, it's going to challenge you to address you as a child.
Yeah.
When your child needs a hug, when you see they need a hug, in turn, that's you hugging your inner child. And not you saying, I didn't get hugs and I was okay. No, just know that if you think that any time of your life, just go and give your child a hug. Default. There you go. That's what that means.
You know what? So real quick, and because I know we're going to end soon, but I have a family member who said, like, he thought that, like, his friend was being sexually abused because his father hugged him and kissed him all the time. And he was just like, I just didn't know that. He was like, and then I have my own son, and he's like, and I was like, I want to hug my son. I want him to know what it's like to have hugs and kisses from his dad. He's like, I want him to know, like, look, if I'm laying in the bed watching TV, you come get in the bed. Right? Like, and that's okay. I remember, I think it was Smokey Norfolk, like, had a photo of his son, and the son was grown. Like, he, like, 16, 17, like a big kid. And he was laying on his chest. And there was all this talk about how it's inappropriate. And I was going, no, that's actually love. I want to go lay on my mom's shoulder. Right? She'd be like, girl, I carried you for 9 months and you had a twin in there. Get off of me. But I want to go, you know what I'm saying? Like, we yearn for that intimacy, but he's breaking that curse because he is constantly telling his son he loves him. Yes. He constantly hugs his son. Yes. And I just love that. I'm like, there's relationship building that has to happen between parents and children. I don't care if it's father, daughter, father, son, mother, daughter, mother, son. I don't care. We have to build that relationship and that intimacy, the appropriate intimacy, because how else are they going to know what's inappropriate?
Exactly. And that continues on the forms of abuse. And not saying that anybody asked for it, not saying anybody said, do that to me. No. It's just knowing what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, knowing what's okay. So some people feel that if they feel lonely, then there's something wrong with them. No, there's nothing wrong with you. That's normal. Right. Obviously, feeling lonely is not a feeling that's like, oh, yes, I feel lonely. No, it doesn't feel good. However, how do you address that? You don't continue to stay alone, even though that's probably what occurred when you were feeling that as a child. Right. Having someone next to you, having someone watch a TV show with you. It didn't even got to do with giving a hug. So learning the different levels of affection that I think is very, very absent, or was very, very absent, within our generational and older. And I'll say for various reasons, but just know the way that you were parented doesn't apply to now. Because of life is totally different.
We gotta touch on that and on another show, like, because parenting is so much different. Like, there's more.
It's different.
There's more to talk about on that. But we're gonna end today's show. Thank you all for joining us. We love it here. Right. Thank you to Brownstone Worldwide for just loving us and bringing us into the family. We are grateful to be here. If you have any questions, any comments on the show, ideas that you want us to consider, email us at therealonparenting@gmail.com. Put it in the subject matter. Like, let us know what the email is about. Because I'm gonna be honest, Danielle don't be opening the emails, and I only open the ones that, like, don't make me work so hard. I'll put it out there.
Right.
Be specific, come correct, right? And be respectful. Because we are two girls from Compton. Yes. And you mess around and find out.
Oh, goodness.
You guys have a great night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Until the next time.
Bye.